I'm Shulamit Ber Levtov. You can call me Shula for short. And this event, welcome to the Failure Wake, or A Failure Wake, hosted by the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, which is the first and only Chamber of Commerce in Canada dedicated to supporting diverse, women-identified, and non-binary business owners. I'll make a parenthesis because I'm hosting. I have been told that women identified is a problematic term. And if it were I would just be saying women. So I want to acknowledge that there may be some stickiness around the languaging. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce advocates for all its members' needs with the government, federal and otherwise, leveraging its position and title as a chamber to engage with the key decision makers who drive change at the policy level. CanWCC exists to improve the quality of life for over 1 million entrepreneurial women in Canada. Who knew, right? There are so many of us. Through policy advocacy, aiming to build a healthier and more inclusive economy. And the organization amplifies the voices and stories of the diverse women and non-binary entrepreneur members while also fighting for their economic equity. This is a failure wake. Traditionally, wakes are for sharing memories, celebrating the life of the departed, and mourning together. Today, we're going to be sharing memories and mourning our failures in business, whether they are large failures or small failures. And after caring for the emotions, we'll learn how to fail forward. In other words, how to metabolize the failure and mine it for the gold that's at its heart. And then to celebrate what skills and strengths were present then at the time or that we gained. So as it said in the propaganda, the announcement for this event, failure is often emotionally, physically, and financially painful. Not only for the losses, but also for the self-blame and shame, and the self-doubt and the questioning. Two things that really turned the self-blame around for me, and at least intellectually and in my self-talk, that helped me get comfortable with failure. One is a quote from the book, The Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel says, long tails drive everything. They dominate business, investing, sports, politics, products, careers, everything. So if you think of a bell curve, remember in school, where most of the people scored at the top of the bell, and then the bell distribution has tails. This is where the outliers or the less common experiences live. And these tails are what drive everything, he says. Anything that is huge, profitable, famous, or influential is the result of a tail event. In other words, success is an exception. And most of our attention goes to these things that are huge, profitable, famous, or influential. What we pay attention to is in the tail. And we don't see what led to the tail. We don't see the many, many, many failures that had to occur in order for there to be tails, in order for there to be successes. And so he says, when you embrace the idea that tails drive everything in business, you find it perfectly normal for many things to go wrong, to fail, to break, and it's all part of the process. We attribute all kinds of things to, we have this concept from Adam Smith and the liberal political philosophy of the, I think it was Adam Smith, of the individual, the independent individual who has free choice. But the truth is, especially as women business owners or non-binary business owners or business owners who don't fit the white cis het mold, that there's so much context for what's happening. And we consider, when we look at a failure in a system like that, we attribute the failure to the individual and the failure is to see all the aspects, the complexity at play. Yeah, including the psychological complexity of living under scarcity, which is what startup culture is. So Dr. Michael A. Freeman, those of you who've spent any time with me know that I refer to him and his work all the time. He's a US American psychiatrist and psychologist who I would consider the grandfather of research into entrepreneurship and mental health. And he works very closely one-on-one with many, many entrepreneurs. And he says, it's not true that you are either a success or a failure when your business is either a success or a failure. It's not that you're succeeding, it's that your business is succeeding for the moment in this dynamic environment that can change. So that's the business, it's for the moment, it's in a dynamic environment that can change, right? So many aspects that come to play when we experience a failure in our business or a failure of a business. So he says business success is 50% luck. And how I take that is that it's not on me all the time. And it's not, even when there are things that I have done, yes, it's fleeting, and we have some degree of control, but the amount, and this is again the problem with living in an individualistic culture, the amount of how do I want to say this? The proportion of blame or fault attributed to the individual in the context of failure, I think, is disproportionate. I think we blame much more on the individual than can be attributable to them. It's the responsibility or the cause, let's say, the conditions are economic and other systemic factors, and those are out of our little hands. And that's the truth for any person living under capitalism or living under any economic system when it's not an economic system in which we are fully participating, right? That these factors come to bear on us and our lives and our businesses. And this has always been the case, right? We have always been at the mercy of the economy as entrepreneurs. It's just especially all the more so the case now, and has been so intensively since more or less March of 2020. Like the economy now is not behaving like the economy of our youths or even of 10 years ago. It's even more unpredictable and volatile than it used to be. So one of the things that can be helpful is to ground yourself in this knowledge and awareness, to repeat it to yourself over and over and over again, to expose yourself to these messages, to talk to people who understand the complexities so that they can validate for you that it's not all you and it's not only you. There is so much more at play here. So tip number one for dealing with failure is to take in different ways of thinking about it and changing how you think about it, even in theory. Even if it doesn't land here, at least you're not reinforcing what's happening here with shitty self-talk, with untruths about how things really are, right? The thought that it's my fault is not true. It's true that it feels shitty. It feels true that you've been told the whole time that it's in your hands and a rugged individualism and the entrepreneur should succeed and it takes courage. And if you fail, you haven't got the courage. That's all bullshit. But the pain is real. So changing what you're saying to yourself is an important step, even if it doesn't yet land here. So here is a post, an article that I've written that gives you specific steps for ways that you can engage in not toxic positivity, but affirming and supportive self-talk.